Welcome to the Private Practice Startup Podcast, where we help mental health professionals grow their dream practices and live a life they love. We chat with successful private practitioners, business coaches, and marketing experts, bringing you tons of practice building tips. We invite you to take advantage of our private practice paperwork and our signature marketing e-course. And we have a gift for you. This is the exact methodology we use to create our six-figure private pay practices and have helped many other therapists do the same. Go to privatepracticestartup.com and on the homepage, click the button to download a free copy of your dream private practice playbook. Now on to today's episode.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Private Practice Startup Podcast. We have a second-time guest on with us today, and I'm going to say her podcast will probably be one of the more valuable podcasts in learning how to save time as a therapist, because what we're about to talk about is something that you love to do. Not really, probably. And Barbara Griswold actually has joined us before talking about how to write an effective, quick progress note. So we will definitely pop that into our show notes page so you can listen to that. But today we're going to be talking about how to write a 10-minute treatment plan. So Barbara really is here to gift you the gift of more time. So I'm very excited about that. But before I officially introduce her, I hope that you joined us last week as Kate and I talked about a very different topic, because usually we're always talking about how to build a practice, client and clinician issues, just being a therapist in private practice. But we decided to talk about how to close a private practice. So many of you transition or you move or you become a parent and you decide maybe you just don't want to do therapy anymore for a while. So we talk about the mental, the emotional, the specific steps preparing your clients, and also talk about what your boards require in order to close a private practice. So let's introduce our guest today. Barbara Griswold is a licensed marriage and family therapist and a private practice coach and author of Navigating the Insurance Maze, the therapist's complete guide to working with insurance. And the 9th edition of her book was just published. So I definitely recommend you checking that out. Barbara consults with therapists nationwide, answering questions about insurance, documentation, and audits, the stuff we never learned in grad school. Welcome, Barbara.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm always delighted to be with you.
Yes, we're excited to have you.
It's great to have you back.
Yeah, it took some time to get you back, but we finally got you. Which is tougher than trying to get a hold of, a high politician. So before we jump into today's topic, let's just take a quick moment for our sponsor. As a therapist, I can tell you from experience that having the right EHR is an absolute lifeline. I recommend using Therapy Notes. They make billing, scheduling, note-taking, telehealth, and e-prescribing incredibly easy. Best of all, they offer live telephone support that's available 7 days a week. Look, don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Therapy Notes is the #1 highest rated EHR available today with 4.9 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot and Google. Go to therapynotes.com and enter code PPS as in Private Practice Startup and receive a special 2-month trial, absolutely free. And hey, if you're coming from another EHR, no worries. Therapy Notes will import your demographic data quick and easy at no cost to you, so you can get started right away. Trust me, don't waste any more of your time. Go to therapynotes.com and enter code PPS for your 2-month free trial. So Barbara, I guess maybe first share with our audience, how did you decide to really help therapists with this niche in insurance?
I get asked that a lot. Like so many things in lives, we did not go in thinking, I'm going to become the insurance person. That's not like something I ever dreamed of as a small child. I was not 5 years old thinking this should be my future. I started working with insurance as soon as I got licensed. My thought was, I'm just going to get on every insurance panel I can get on. And then as soon as I get a lot of clients, I'm just going to quit them all. That was my plan. But what started to happen is that, other colleagues in my building would say, oh, you're on all the plans. Can you tell me how to fill out the claim form? And can you answer this question about insurance? And can you answer this question? And for some reason, I just started to give out like free consultations for everybody. And after a while, they said, you should charge for this. And I thought, yeah, I guess I should. And then after a while, I started to I said, maybe we should do like a workshop for this. And so a colleague and I did a workshop, and we were just amazed that we sold out the room that we had rented, and we had to turn away people, which was just unheard of at a workshop. And we really just could see very quickly that people really did not have anywhere to turn for help with their questions about insurance, and just someone to tell them. So that was back in, I don't know what that was, 2001, 2006. And since then, somebody said, well, you should write a book about it. And I was like, no, I'm not going to write a book. I don't know enough. And along the line, you just keep doing something that you don't think you could do, or it's, I don't feel like I ever know enough about insurance. It's so complex. But then I just kept thinking, well, if I know something more than the person over there, well, I can help them. And so, now I've got, 10 courses, and I give live webinars, and, it's turned into that now I don't actually see live clients anymore. I've kind of done what you were talking about, which is closed my therapy business, which I was really kind of ready to do, and gone into full-time training. So,
yeah. Wow. What a journey.
And
it has been.
The service that you provide for clinicians navigating the insurance maze is such a wonderful thing, because it is such an intimidating world working with insurance. I can remember a long, long time ago, before I got in private practice, I was working in a intensive outpatient program, and I was working as their utilization review coordinator. Mm-hmm. And I had to deal with all of the headaches for the entire program with all of the insurance. And at that point, I was like, I am never going to use insurance in private practice. And I didn't. I've built a self-pay practice because of those headaches. But so many therapists have no clue how to navigate the insurance world, and to be able to have a resource like yourself and what you provide to be able to simplify it and break it down.
Well, I confess that in some ways it's really a lot more validating than my practice was, because, if somebody comes into your practice and that it's going to be a long time before they feel better sometimes. Whereas sometimes on these phone calls, somebody will say to me, a therapist will say, I got this letter from the insurance plan. I'm freaking out. And I can say to them, don't worry. This letter is a nothing. You don't have to worry about it. Here's what you do. And in one little half-hour meeting, this person's feeling 1,000% better, and they hadn't been sleeping, So it's kind of, you feel almost magical, where as a therapist, I did not usually feel magical in any way.
There's a quick reward that you get. That's awesome. Yeah. And I think this topic that we're going to talk about today is going to be really helpful with how to really break down the treatment plan to save time, and so therapists can really get their time and energy back. So where should we start with our topic today, Barbara?
Well, one survey I did, I think it was 1,000 people. I asked them how many of them actually did treatment plans for all their clients. I think the answer was 30%. So I would say most people listening to this, but maybe before I said that, were thinking, oh my God, I don't do treatment plans. Or I only do them for some clients, or just for my insurance clients, or I don't even know what a treatment plan is. So all I guess I want to start with is that if you don't do treatment plans, you're in the majority of therapists. You're not that shameful person in the corner. Most of us don't have time. Most of us may not see that they're helpful in any way, which I can confess, I kind of feel the same way about them sometimes. But they're like cleaning the toilet. It's something you got to do, and you got to take care of, and it's part of our job. And so the way that I see it is, I'm going to teach people to do it quickly and easily, and not try to avoid it. Like if you're not doing them because you're avoiding it or you don't know what to write, I want to teach people, here's what you write, here's how to get it done quickly, and move on to the things that you do love about your job.
Nice. So before we dive in, go ahead, Kate.
I was just going to say, for those who are in private practice who are self-pay, many of you aren't doing treatment plans because you don't have the requirement to do so. But if you're taking insurance, is it true that all insurance panels, or most of them, require treatment plans?
Yes, but I would also say, to contradict you a little bit, that many licensing boards require them. if not all. Ethics committees would want to see them, and many states require them. So I don't think you should just be doing them for your insurance clients.
I appreciate you contradicting me. Yeah, that's important. Okay.
What I would say is if you really don't have time, don't do them for your stand-up clients. Do them just for your private pay clients. But here's another thing. Sometimes you have a private pay client come in and they're paying for 3 months and then they go, this is really getting expensive. I'm changing my mind. I want to submit this to my insurance. And now you're like, oh, shoot, I haven't been writing down a diagnosis. I haven't have a treatment plan on file for this person. So sometimes people shift from private pay to insurance clients, and you kind of just want to document all of them the same is how I look at it. Like, don't even look at what their payment source is. Have a little quick treatment plan. Do your documentation the same because you don't know who could request it, for what reasons, blah, blah, blah.
That makes sense.
That does make sense. Let's just take a quick moment for our sponsor.
As a therapist, you're probably too preoccupied with your caseload to want to think about bookkeeping and taxes. Herd is a full-service accounting software platform built specifically for therapists that helps you track and improve your practice's financial health. Regardless of whether you're a seasoned clinician or you're in the first year of your practice, Herd will help you identify areas for growth and streamline best financial practices for your business. When you sign up with Herd, you'll work directly with financial specialists to track your income and expenses, file taxes online, and grow your business. You'll also receive financial insights such as profit and loss statements and personalized monthly reports. Say goodbye to poring over spreadsheets and guessing your tax deductions or quarterly payments. Focus on your clients, and Herd will take care of the rest. Plans begin at $199 per month for solo practices and $299 per month for group practices. Schedule a free 15-minute consultation at joinherd.com. That's joinherd.com. Are you tired of running to the lobby to see if your next appointment has arrived? Would you like a more discreet, stress-free way for your clients to check in? Take a deep breath. The Receptionist for iPad empowers your practice to create a Zen-like check-in experience. This episode is sponsored by the Receptionist for iPad. It's the highest rated digital check-in software for therapy offices and behavioral health clinics used by thousands of private practitioners across the country, including many who are just getting started. The Receptionist for iPad is a simple, inexpensive way to allow your clients to discreetly check in, to notify providers of a client's arrival, and to ensure your front lobby area is stress-free. The software sends an immediate notification to the therapist when a client checks in and can even ask if any client information has changed since their last visit. Start your 14-day free trial of the Receptionist for iPad by going to thereceptionist.com/PPS, as in private practice startup. And when you do, you'll also get your first month for free when you sign up. That's thereceptionist.com/PPS.
So, Barbara, what are the important components of the 10-minute good treatment plan?
Well, yeah, if you, probably everyone watching this, if you've ever been trained to do a treatment plan, which most of us haven't, I swear I never was. I had to actually research, how do you do a treatment plan? I never did treatment plans until I started teaching it. So that's, 30 years of practice, never did a treatment plan. That's my confession. I had never been taught to do them. I didn't know why you should do them. I didn't really know that they were required. And then I started realizing insurance plans require them, and you can get in trouble if you don't have them. And we can talk about that, what that means. But so I researched, and, everybody has different ideas about what should be in them, but the commonalities is what I'm going to talk about. Pretty much there's 5 main components. And one, you should have the client's diagnosis on there. 2, you should have basically some goals. What are you and those goals, well, I'll talk about later what they shouldn't be. Those goals are basically at the end of treatment, what do you want to see have happened with this client? And then underneath each one of your goals should be like an objective. And the definition of objective is really kind of, how are you going to measure that you've achieved that, or that you've at least made steps toward that. So we're looking for measurable steps along the way. And I'm going to give you some examples maybe later if you would like some. And then interventions is the third piece, fourth piece. You're going to say, what are you going to do? So maybe you're going to meet weekly with them. Maybe you're going to do individual therapy. Maybe you're going to do come from a CBT, kind of what's your approach, CBT, and maybe I'm going to teach them mindfulness. Maybe I'll refer them for medication. Just kind of a quick overview. You don't have to flesh it out. Just chit. And then your fifth one is, how long do you think therapy is going to take? This is the most ridiculous part of the treatment plan, but again, it's just something you have to add. They somehow want this. And I usually just write 6 months for everybody. If you write down 6 years, they're going to be like, no, we don't want you to predict something so long. They are looking for shorter term. So if you want to say 6 months, even if you think it's longer, then at 6 months, you can reevaluate and say, seems like it's going to take longer, maybe 6 more months. And you can just say 6 more months for the entire 6 years of treatment. But yeah, they don't usually like it when you write like a year or 2 or 3, even though sometimes the person walks in and you just know, looking at them or listening to their history, that it's going to be long-term treatment. So that's kind of the framework. Yeah, I can talk about how people make mistakes on them, but that's what it should include, I would say.
Okay.
So how do you help people kind of conceptualize, like, even though that's the framework? I remember, when I first learned how to write treatment plans, and thank God I had a supervisor who made me a formula, right? Like when you talk about the objective, she's like, write baseline and goal line. Oh, okay. With a number. Okay. That's easy. Right. So how do you help them kind of conceptualize those very quick, like, here's this, here's that? Obviously the diagnosis is the diagnosis, goal, et cetera. But yeah, how do you help them conceptualize that?
Well, one of my tips that's really just how to make this super easy. I think actually treatment plans are super easy to write if you get the formula right. And my formula is, for your first goal, it's written for you if you think about, what's my diagnosis? And then if my diagnosis is anxiety, then my first goal is going to be reduce symptoms of anxiety. If my client is depressed, it's going to be reduce symptoms of depression. Right? So the first goal should be diagnosis specific. If this person comes in, I can't sleep at night. That's my number one problem that I'm coming in for help with. Reduce insomnia, so it kind of writes itself from the diagnosis. So that's goal 1. Goal 2 can be improve coping skills related to that. So it could be, that maybe you're going to help them write a self-care plan, or maybe you're going to teach them. The objective might be client will be using 3 techniques from therapy to combat anxiety when it spikes. You can use that same sentence for anything. Client will be using 3 techniques learned in therapy to combat depression when it spikes. But again, to your point, measurable is really something that the insurance plans love. So if my goal for the first one was reduce symptoms of depression, I'm going to have to say as the objective, well, how am I going to measure that? Is it going to be client will for fewer depressive episodes? Right now, he's reporting it daily, and he will be reporting it, less than once weekly. So you want to have that kind of thing. You want to quantify it. Or it could be that he's taking the PHQ-9 test or the GAD-7 test, and he will score within this lower range, the mild range, instead of in the severe range where he's at now. Anything that quantifies it or is a way of measuring. But self-report is okay. Client self-report, as long as it's something that they can quantify a bit.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what are some of the mistakes that therapists make when writing treatment plans?
The biggest mistake I see is that they are, that their goals that they choose are not what the insurance plans would consider medically necessary. So insurance plans only pay for services that are, let's talk about medical necessity. They don't pay for personal growth work that your client might be doing. Better communication, they don't really care. Better sex, they don't usually care. Better career, switching jobs, they don't really pay for that. So you have to remember this is medical insurance. They only want to pay for the reduction of symptoms that are medical symptoms like anxiety, depression. I think those are the big ones I always think about. I always think about the triumvirate in my mind: anxiety and depression, substance abuse you could put in there, eating disorders, of course. But the third one I was going to say is insomnia. So they're going to pay for those kind of disorders. But if it's just personal growth, I want my life to have more meaning. I want to have better self-esteem. They really don't pay for that. They really don't care. So I see therapists time and time again put the words that the client comes in saying, and I think that that's a mistake. I know some people have been taught to do that, but if you write down client wants to have more meaning in their life, first of all, that's very non-measurable. And second of all, it's not something insurance will pay for. If it's a non-insurance client, you can put almost anything you want down. But for an insurance client, you're going to need to find a symptom that you're reducing and aim for that. So I've seen therapists put down things like goal 1 is build rapport with therapist. That's not a therapy goal. Therapy goal is what you want at the end. So, create safe space. That's not a therapy goal. That client didn't come to therapy to get this from, to have a better relationship with their therapist. The therapy goal is that they want to reduce the symptoms that they came in with. So that's one of the biggest mistakes. The second biggest mistake I see therapists make is that they're too vague. They say things that are not measurable, like we talked about self-esteem. That's on a lot of people's treatment plan, improve self-esteem. It's too hard to measure. It really is, number one. And as I said, it's not something that the insurance plans consider medically necessary. I would rather see you, if you can't think of what else. Oh, that's another thing. Sometimes people put 95 goals. You don't need 95 goals. 2 goals, fine. 3, if you really want to add something that's kind of client specific, like this particular client is having trouble with medication adherence. They're not taking their meds and you want to help them develop a plan on that. And somehow that's a kind of an extra goal. Or maybe they're having trouble with social phobia when at work, they don't speak up in meetings. And maybe you want to kind of put that as a separate thing, or build their support system. That's actually a good one, because I think insurance plans like to see that you're not building dependence on you. So I think don't feel like you have to give a 95 goals or 95 objectives under each goal. It's certainly fine to just have a goal, an objective, a goal, an objective, and you could be done.
Keep it simple and specific and medically oriented. Yeah.
And that's how you get done in 10 minutes, because it's kind of, you start to kind of write the same scenarios for your anxiety clients and your depressed clients, use some of the same sentences, and you don't need to have a ton of stuff on there.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of time, what is the time frame of when we need to have the initial treatment plan completed and then any subsequent treatment plans?
Yeah, a lot of people say to me, well, I can't write a treatment plan after I've only met with somebody like 50 minutes or 60 minutes the first session. And that's usually when you are expected to write one. So I guess I tell people, it's really okay if you don't. I mean, you could wait till the second session or third session, but it's okay if you don't have a clear, comprehensive picture of everything about this client. You're usually walking in that first session, you're you're kind of formulating your diagnosis, and you have enough to put together a very rough treatment plan. And just keep in mind, you can add to the treatment plan later if you, in the 15th session, they suddenly tell you that they're abusing drugs or something, and you're like, oh, that didn't come up till the 15th session. You can add that to the treatment plan, that one of the new goals is to, explore their drug use and whether or not, some referrals need to be made around that or whatever. So yes, insurance plans expect you to be kind of updating your treatment plan as new goals come about, but a formal update usually isn't required. Most insurance plans don't tell you when you have to update it, but they kind of want you to be doing that. So I say six months maybe for regular insurance plans. For Medicare, most Medicare require 3 months. I know there's one, I think the Florida one doesn't require that, but most Medicare want you to be updating every 3 months. And I want to just take a minute here to say, why do you need to do treatment plans if you're working with insurance? There is a big consequence if you are not doing it for certain health plans. And the ones I'm going to mention are Medicare and United Healthcare, Optum, which is all, and United Behavioral Health. Those are all kind of under the same umbrella. Those two are the ones who are doing these retrospective audits, who might say, hey, we've paid for your services for the last year or two, whatever. We want to look at, we're doing a retrospective audit. We want to see all your notes from the last year for this person. And if you don't have a treatment plan, they could take all the money back that they paid you in the last year, right? So this is what's known as a clawback. So, or if they think your treatment plan isn't good enough, I've seen them take back, and we're talking about, one lady told me they were asking for $26,000 back, another person $20,000 back, another $12,000 back. And some of them were either you don't have a treatment plan, or your treatment plan is not measurable, or it doesn't have medically necessary goals. So this can have huge consequences, particularly if you work with those two insurance plans. So really think about this as important. Now, in general, though, I'll confess, if you don't have time to do your progress notes and you don't have time to do your treatment plans and you're trying to decide which is more important, I will always come down on do your progress notes. Do your progress notes. They have so much more consequences. There's so many more times they are going to be requested. The client can request them, so many more times my progress notes have had to go and be requested than my treatment plan. So, if it comes down to it and push comes to shove, you don't have time to do one of these things, do those progress notes, but try to do the treatment plans at least for your insurance clients. And I would say your high risk private pay clients too, if you can't do it for all of them, because, if something happens with a private pay client, you want to show that you had a treatment plan. It was particularly good. You had this all mapped out as to what you were going to do with this person. And that's part of your defense.
Got it. Well, Barbara, thank you so much. I mean, you're a wealth of knowledge and we really appreciate it. What do you want our audience to take away from your message today?
For those of you who aren't doing treatment plans, I want you to think about doing them. They don't have to be that thing that you're avoiding or that you think isn't helpful. I mean, a lot of people who, I have a class in it, and some people who are telling me, this actually was more helpful than I thought it would be to put together and to kind of follow along. And I do a less formal thing. Like in my first session, I ask the client what they want to get out of therapy and I write down their goals. And sometimes when I get to a place where I'm kind of stuck in therapy, I go back and we talk about the goals. I'm like, let's see where you're at. And they're kind of amazed. I don't remember feeling that way. And they're able to note progress that they weren't able to note before, or it kind of, if they say, yeah, I still feel that way, then we can discuss, we started therapy 6 months ago. what else do we need to do on that front? Do you think? Do we need to bring in some adjuncts? Do we need to refer you? What needs to happen so that we can get unstuck there? But very often just reviewing therapy goals with clients can be really helpful. I should also say that insurance plans want you to review your goals with the client, maybe even get them to sign the treatment plan, which kind of should live separately from your progress notes, and to just kind of be on board with those. Supposedly, surveys show that clients who are part of the treatment planning actually kind of sometimes do better in therapy because they're maybe more focused. But
nice. Well, thank you so much for all of that. And just want to remind you about Barbara's book, the 9th edition, Navigating the Insurance Maze, the Therapist's Complete Guide to Working with Insurance. I assume it's on Amazon and maybe
No, don't send them to Amazon.
Don't go to Amazon.
Yeah.
Where can they get it, Barbara?
They can get them on my website, which is theinsurancemaze.com. Don't forget the word the, or theinsurancemaze.com, and then /store. And there you'll find all my courses, including how to write a 10-minute treatment plan, and also my progress notes webinar, which is all about what's missing from your client charts and how to write great progress notes, which is, if those are the two, I like to think if you take those two webinars, you're going to have a really firm grounding in documentation, which you probably did not get in your training anywhere. So
awesome. Well, thank you again so much, and grab that information for sure. We appreciate you being back with us, Barbara. And Kate.
Wait, we were going to give out a freebie, weren't we?
Oh, I thought that you had mentioned the freebie. Sorry, go ahead.
No. So we were going, are you going to have it living on your website or mine?
It's going to be on the show notes.
It's going to be on the show notes page for sure.
Yeah.
We'll have the link for it on the show notes page. Yes.
So we have to give out to all of you for listening in. We have a blank treatment plan template that I put together that will hopefully speed your putting together that 10-minute treatment plan. And you can just go through there and do check boxes and also fill in the sections. But if you want to take the 10-minute webinar, it'll also give you examples, many more examples of how to fill them out for a PTSD diagnosis, for depression, for anxiety. It'll kind of really walk you through.
That's great. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
So for that, that's on theinsurancemaze.com, and you put /PP startup for us. And then the other stuff is theinsurancemaze.com/store. That's for your book and then the webinars. Is that correct? Just want to make sure I got it all right.
I'll check out the PP startup. I guess that's right, but I will double check it.
We'll have all the links on the show notes page so you guys don't have to remember them. Don't worry. Just visit the show notes and you'll be able to check everything out there. And we hope you enjoyed today's episode with Barbara. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your information with us, Barbara. And Startup Nation, if there's a topic that we haven't talked about in our 315 episodes yet, please let us know. We're always trying to curate content that specifically meets your needs all along the practice building and growing journey. So always let us know. And we hope that you subscribe, rate, and review our show. And of course, share it with your friends and fellow colleagues. So Katie, anything else you want to add?
That's it. Have an awesome, inspired day, everybody. Take care.
See you next time, everybody. Thanks again, Barbara.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.